Welcome, everyone. We are excited that you're here today. I am going to give it a couple minutes and let our attendees come and join our meeting. We are so excited to have you all with us on this beautiful Tuesday night. I'm based in Chicago, where it feels very fallish outside. All of you could be in different places, I guess, in the attendee world. So we will just wait about one more minute. We're excited that you're here today. Awesome. We are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you and do a couple kind of like beginning housekeeping items. So there is that. I'm going to pull up my script. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for Illinois students, sponsored by the Illinois Association for College Admissions Counseling and StriveScan. My name is Mary Alice Berg, and I will be your facilitator tonight for the Choosing a College That Fits session. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. My students and parents and families and counselors in the audience, you can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time during the session. So you don't need to be shy. They can be coming in while they're presenting, then they'll have lots to answer at the end. Your camera and microphone are both off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. So that Q&A is going to be the best way to communicate with them. And tonight is just one of many different sessions happening. So be sure to check out the full schedule at IACAC.org. And then last but not least, this presentation is being recorded and will be available within a week at that same website, IACAC.org. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, turn off my video, and hand it over to my presenters. Good luck, everyone. Have fun.
All right, well, good evening, and we are very happy to have you joining us for our session. And we're going to cover the topic of choosing a college that fits. And we'll begin with some brief introductions. My name is Jamie Staggs. I am with the University of Memphis, and I am a regional admissions counselor who takes care of students from Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana.
And good evening, everyone. My name is Joel Johnson. I work for Valparaiso University in Northwest Indiana. I'm actually one of 4 counselors that cover Illinois. I work specifically with students in the Chicagoland area, the city and suburbs.
Yeah, and my name is Trent Fenwick. I'm also a regional recruiter here for Murray State University in Kentucky. So I work with students in Missouri and Illinois as well. And as we're kind of getting started, as Jamie's about to start in with our presentation, just remember what we're going to talk about is a lot of different factors. So you're going to kind of find your ranking, how you feel about things, but we're going to go from top to bottom and then kind of talk throughout about kind of prioritizing these for yourself.
Well, if you weren't familiar with it, there's actually 5,300 different colleges and universities in the United States. And with so many options, it may be a bit overwhelming at times. And as you try to determine which ones best fit your goals, your preferences, your budget, and more, we hope this session will actually help you identify which order these 7 criteria should be in for you to help you narrow down your list. Essentially, we want to help you develop your top 5 list or your top 10 list of universities that you should eventually apply to. So we hope you find this information helpful. And again, we're going to cover these topics in a certain order, but that doesn't mean they need to be in this order for you. So at the end of our session, take time to put them in the order that applies to you personally and how you prioritize them and rank them. I'd like to transition. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah. So as Jamie mentioned, there's over 5,000 different colleges in the United States. So you're probably thinking, how in the world do I shrink that list down to something that's manageable? Well, you want to start actually looking at the types of college, because right off the bat, that will shrink your list big time. So we identified these 5 different kind of categories that the colleges would fall into. So just working from top to bottom. So technical schools would represent most often those career-oriented schools. At a technical school, you typically will find things like culinary arts, carpentry fields. You may find even some fashion design or interior design opportunities there. But oftentimes it's typically more of a career focus, maybe even an entrepreneur type of ship. Sorry, not entrepreneur, but apprenticeship type of program that you'd be looking at a technical school. Most times technical schools offer certificates or certifications, not quite degrees, but again, there may be some exceptions. Then we look at the community colleges. Community colleges, you'll find, are almost a hybrid. They're a hybrid between that technical college and then the full out a traditional college that offers the programs like your humanities, your social sciences, your biologies, your psychology, things like that. So you're going to find that at the community college, but you will also find many of those career-oriented and apprenticeship type of programs. So with the community college, you will find those certificate programs, but also now degrees, typically associate's degrees. There are some areas of the country where you can get a few bachelor's degrees through community colleges, but in general, you're probably looking at an associate degree with the idea of either going into the workforce after completing your program at the community college or possibly transferring to a four-year university. And that's the next one. So the state university and the private universities are both going to kind of occupy that four-year university description, if you will. The difference is obviously who owns it. So state universities are obviously run by the state that they reside in. Many times state universities are larger in size, not all of them. There are some that may be as small as 3,000 to 5,000 as well, but they will typically range the full gamut of size, but we'll talk about size in the next slide. So but the state universities most times is driven by who owns it. Whereas at the private universities, you'll find the full range of who owns it. And that might be, it may be a religious affiliated institution. Some are independent. Some may have actually even started with they may have started as public and gone private. So you never know really the history of the school. And that's something you can actually learn about as you learn about each school. But with the state and the privates, you're really typically looking at who owns it, what's the mission, what drives it. That's typically the main difference in there. But otherwise, they're both four-year colleges, and they typically offer most often bachelor's degrees, sometimes master's and beyond. But every now and then a few certificates, but mostly the degree is where it probably is the biggest shift from a community college to the four-year school. And then finally, graduate school. So graduate school represents your degrees beyond your bachelor's. So your bachelor's degree is that first degree you get when you graduate from college. Anything beyond that is considered graduate school. So if you're thinking about going on for medicine, if you're thinking about going on just for a master's in psychology or anything like that, you're going to go into some type of graduate school. And so not all four-year schools, public or private, have graduate schools. Many do have at least some master's programs. But when you're looking for those doctorate programs or those professional programs, you're going to find not every school has that. So that may shape your decision when you're looking at types of colleges. So we're talking about fit. Keep that in mind for sure. But you'll find, despite these different descriptions, size changes with each of these. And I think Trent will talk a bit about size.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another big thing, as we've really been talking about, is there are thousands of options for you all as far as where you're going to land. So the first, or kind of the next component, is going to be size, and that can mean a large variety of things. So I always start first up here with campus. So what is the size of the physical campus? So how much space does it occupy where it is? Again, that could be acres. So it's space. Also think about that as far as how far is it to walk to class? You know, are you crossing streets? Are you downtown in the city? Is it a rural environment? So think of the setting kind of that campus is in, and then think total enrollment. Again, there are institutions that have upwards of 30 to 40,000 plus communities of students there. There's some, as we kind of alluded to earlier, with maybe even 1,000 or less. So think of the campus size first. So again, kind of the physical size of that campus, then also the number of students who are going to be there, because I also call size environment. So think about that environment that you want to be in. How many people do you want to be around every day? Because not only are those people sharing the campus with you, they're also in your classroom. So again, you're going to hear a lot of people talk about class size. So are you comfortable with large lecture halls? You know, there could be upwards of 200 to 250 people in a large lecture hall at a large institution, or even at those large institutions, there are still small classes. So again, that's another common question, thing that we talk about a lot as people who work with these institutions is, what's your student to faculty ratio? So what is the average class like on your campus? So again, that's going to be different in every institution, but just know that unique classroom experience is how you're going to receive the education of that school. So again, you know, you could be that guy like me when I was in high school. You want that bigger school experience, but how are you really going to learn? You know, make sure you're taking care of yourself academically, because that's why you're coming to college. Truly. Same way with the community. So think about where you're geographically going to be located. So we have a lot of urban campuses around the country, downtown metropolitan cities, bustling, always exciting. There are some still pretty good sized colleges in small towns as well, in smaller communities. Kind of give you that stereotypical college town feel. Same way with amenities. I like kind of to joke and tell students, if you have to have a Target and a TJ Maxx close by, it's really important that you go there and you see that and you had those amenities. But what is there to do in that community? What else is going on outside of the campus? Because again, with all these thousands of universities, they're also located in thousands of different places. So keeping in mind the campus, the classroom, the community is what really can help you start differentiating these campuses and what makes them unique.
So now I'm excited to talk to you about location, because whenever we talk to teens about their hopes and dreams and where they may want to go to college, many of them are really excited to move out after they graduate from high school, and they want to explore and go on an adventure. And so oftentimes they will apply to universities that are several hours away, maybe even across the country. And then there's other students who we meet who know that they want to stay close to home, that they don't want to be more than an hour or two from where they grew up. The fact is, neither thought is wrong. It is a personal preference. It truly is. And so keep that in mind as you're looking at colleges. For those of you who want to go out of state, you need to be motivated to make new friends and to experience the new town and environment that you're in. So you do have to kind of motivate yourself, because you may not have those family and friends right there, to push you. So keep that in mind. Another thing, if you're choosing to go out of state, sometimes it costs a little more because you have extra travel expense. Maybe you have to take an air flight or a train or a bus or just simply drive more miles. So keep that in mind, that it may be a little more expensive to go out of state. And then do ask the universities, are there out of state fees? And if so, how much are they? For example, our out-of-state fees at the University of Memphis, it's an additional $3,000, and we're very upfront with students. And then that you should ask, well, are there ways to help get that waived? So if you are looking out of state, ask if there's certain criteria that you can meet to help get those fees waived. Also, we recommend that you don't just say, I want to go out of state. Instead, let's put a measurement on it. Like, how far from home, how many hours are you comfortable being from home? And that should help you quite a bit. Draw a radius as to where your comfort level is based on distance. And then those of you who know you want to choose a college that's closer to home, that can save you a lot of money if you choose to live at home and commute. Plus, if you're coming home, you often have your support system still in place. Your family, your friends, people you grew up with, and maybe that's what you need, okay? And if you're one of those people, then just embrace that and look at your local options. And then another thing to consider is a lot of learning takes place outside the classroom. As you get out and explore the community, as you find internships where you're actually applying what you're learning in the classroom with a business, that takes place in the city and the community around you. So consider those things as you're trying to figure out the best location for you. A few more things that I think you should add to this topic of location is weather. I know there's some people who just know they really enjoy and thrive in a certain climate. That's okay. You can factor that in. Also, some of you have hobbies, boating, skiing, hiking. Maybe there's something you're very passionate about. So choose places that support those interests that you have. And then never forget too, maybe your medical needs. Choose places that can truly meet your needs, because what we want you to do is choose a location where you feel supported personally and professionally. And that's going to help you to be able to succeed in the classroom. And that's what we wish for each of you. So now we can talk more about academic programs.
I hope as we're going through these slides, you're recognizing how much choosing the college that fit really is about choosing what you are interested in, what fits you. So one of the most important things, and as much as we say you should really put these in the order that fit your you fit you. I hope that this one will be towards the top three, honestly. Your academic major, because you do want to choose a college that has the major or academic interest that you're interested in. Because if they don't have your major, it's kind of hard to get the degree you want. And so what we have on the screen here represents kind of on the left, more specialty programs. And then on the right, those that are probably a little bit more common. So you'll probably find the more common programs, English, biology, history, business, at many of the colleges that you're going to look at, especially if you're looking at a community college or a four-year school. You're going to probably find most of these at almost every institution that you're looking at. Whereas the ones on the left are a bit more specialty oriented. If you're interested in some of these particular majors, you're going to find that you're going to have to dig a little further for specific schools that offer them. So for instance, you may not find an electrician and nursing at, well, that's a bad example. Let's say electrician and engineering at the same school. You may not find those at the same school. One you may find at the technical college that we talked about, the other you may find at the private or public four-year school. So make sure when you are looking at your college options, try to choose a college that has the major you're thinking about. Now, I know that some of you may not know exactly what you want to study, and that's fine. I'm not telling you you have to know exactly what you want to major in or what career you want to follow to pick a college. But what I do encourage students to do is identify subjects that you like, careers you think are cool, because most times that's really where your major is going to come from. And so find the college that has those different things that interest you academically, and then just explore that, because colleges also have a lot of introductory classes that allow you to kind of explore a major and learn a little bit about it. They also have, there's something that we call discovery majors. And so what I mean by discovery majors is you might say, I need a humanities class to fill my schedule. And anthropology pops up because it starts with A. So I'm going to go with anthropology. It was a 10 o'clock class, perfect. And then you get into that anthropology class and you fall in love with it. And you say, well, what can I do with anthropology? And then you discover what you can do. And then you say, I found my major. So sometimes your major does happen that way. It's a process of discovery. And so again, if you don't know exactly what you want to study, that's fine. Just go in with a couple things in mind. And as you start to take classes, you will find, yes, I want to continue to follow that path, or no, I don't want to follow that path as well. It happens both ways for sure. But make sure major is part of that decision when you are picking a college that fits you. But as important as major is, you got to have some fun outside the classroom so you can stay sane. So Trent, tell them about some campus life options.
Yeah, and this is my absolute favorite thing about my job, is talking about what goes on college campuses that isn't necessarily academically related. Our state of Kentucky released a research a couple of years ago that said college is actually 70-30. 30% of your college experience is that academic piece. You're going to write papers, you're going to take tests, you're getting your education. But the majority of college, that 70%, is what this slide is. And as someone who graduated from college, I'm sure the other two people would agree with me, there's a lot of memories that go on outside of the classroom as well. So looking at that campus, so living on campus, what do these residence halls look like? So again, this is kind of the student experience piece of, is there freshman required housing? How up to date are things? Do you have options? What does it look like what does it look like to physically live on that campus? Same way with dining. This was the only question I asked when I visited college campuses was what is there to eat? Because I had an older brother that had a different experience at the college he went to. So, are the dining halls open the hours that are going to fit into your class schedule? Are you looking to have some, more big name franchises on your campus to eat at instead of your normal typical dining hall cafeteria style? So again, if dining is very important to you, which it was to me, ask these questions. There's another thing that's very unique to every college campus. And then those amenities as well. This is your student recreation center. So if you like to work out, if you want to take care of yourself, are you going to be able to do that? This is also, let's say, your career center. This is the study of education abroad office. This is, all the different things that are unique to that campus that really impact your experience, because it's your way to get involved and kind of find your niche within that larger campus and within the campus community. So that academic component is the internships. How easy is it to get to know the people over in the Career Center? Do they have direct programs, direct partnerships with employers that you can kind of waltz right in on and you kind of fall into your lap? And then in that Career Center, are there specific people to work with you based on your major? Are there certain career fairs just for you in your academic program? So I always use the Disney College program being like that. There are some career centers, there's one person that is there just to get students to work with the Disney College program, which is great. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. And then education abroad. So that looks different at every university, but can you go for 1 week, 2 weeks? Do you have to do it with your major? Can it be a general education course that you take while you're there? Is it affordable? It's another really big thing. I was that student whenever I was in high school that thought education abroad just isn't possible. Financially, it's not doable. So ask colleges, are there scholarship opportunities for me to go abroad? And again, any sort of duration, the country, really ask those questions, because for you, and I will tell you, in the adult world, it's a lot harder to take off 6 months of my life and go to Europe. But when I was 19, it was very, very easy. So again, look at these education abroad opportunities that are going to impact your academic component of your university experience. And then, of course, the last part is the extracurricular activity. So this is your traditional involvement on a college campus. So we always kind of joke and say, if you have any sort of interest, the campus I was working on a couple of years ago, when fidget spinners were really big, there was a fidget spinner society. So, anything from your basic working with fidget spinners all the way up to things that are grounded in your values, your belief, and also your academic organizations. The average, especially public institution, might have upwards of 150 to 300 student organizations that are on campus for you to get involved with. So again, there's a lot there to supplement the classroom experience. Greek life being very large, popular nationwide as well on anything from a small to a large campus. It's another common question to ask is what percentage of your population is Greek? Some schools, it's a very large experience. At other schools, it's medium size. So I always say, if you're interested in Greek life, learning more what that means, ask also what that means on the campus that you're interested in. And then, of course, athletics. So if you're going to be a university athlete, that could look different versus NAIA, Division I, Division II, Division III. But also athletics on university campuses can also mean you playing an intramural sport. So you're playing with your residence hall, you're playing with your fraternity or sorority. You could be like me. I was a band kid my whole life, but I played 4 different sports in college. So, I had the chance to just kind of pick up a bat and go play softball and not really care if we won or not. So again, athletics can look totally different on whatever campus you are on, but also what experience that you're looking for to be involved. And then the last bullet point down here, and a very important question to ask, is what does it look like on the weekends? Do students go home? Are there a lot of activities? Are there concerts, lectures, these athletic events going on? Are they keeping the students there? Or is campus kind of bleed out and everybody just kind of goes on their own? So I always say this experience, again, while it's different on every single campus, find what is very important to you. Because again, it is your experience. It is your 4 hopeful years of college. But again, it is what you want to make it. And then now the most important thing, especially for me going to college, was the financial aid and the affordability piece, which Jamie's going to talk about.
Thank you, Trent. We have 2 more topics to cover with you, but I did want to mention, if you think of a question while we're speaking, please feel free to use the Q&A and just to enter your question, and we'll make sure to cover it at the end. So yes, I want to talk about scholarships and financial aid, because ultimately you want to keep colleges on your list that fit your budget. And in the beginning of the college search, please don't let the price that you see at a university scare you away and prevent you from applying there, because it can change a lot. It can change considerably. So there may be a university that you're looking at that's between $20,000 to $50,000, the sticker price. But by the time you receive grants, scholarships, loans, different types of financial aid, maybe that same university is now between $5,000 and $15,000 for you. It can really vary quite a bit. And so definitely keep your options open and keep schools on your list in the early part of your college search and allow them to actually send you a financial aid award. So I know college is a lot of money, so I am going to talk about different ways to see if they're going to be within your budget. And I do want to explain a few terms real quickly. When a college tells you what their total cost or tuition is, they're telling you this is how much it costs for usually 5 classes each semester for your professors to teach you. Then if they say total cost, you add on the room and meals and fees. So that is your total cost. Oftentimes the cost for your books, maybe a parking pass, that's going to be additional. That'll be additional money outside of that amount that's shared with you. So let's talk about ways to help cover that cost. One particular term you hear of often is scholarships. Okay, so yes, you want scholarships, and be aggressive with your scholarship search. No amount is too small. Typically for a scholarship, you need to meet some kind of criteria to receive it. It could be a certain GPA, an SAT or ACT score, could be community service or leadership or certain major. So be aggressive, search the scholarships out. There's some scholarships that are specific to the university in which you are applying. And then there's others that are much more broad. Scholarships offered by your city, your community, your school, maybe your parents' employer. So again, try to accumulate as many as you can, because oftentimes we will allow you to stack them up to a certain amount. I would say the best scholarship searches are often free. There's a lot of good ones out there that won't cost you anything to utilize. And you can ask your guidance or college office for their advice on those search engines too. And then oftentimes studying abroad, there's many scholarships that will help offset that cost. And I hope you've heard us say that a few times. So if you've dreamed about it or thought about it, don't rule it out and seek out that office to see what additional scholarships can help you cover those costs. All right, grants. I always tell students, grants are great. That's what I want them to remember. Grants are great. It's money that you receive for college costs that you don't pay back. It doesn't have the word loan associated with it. So if you see a financial aid award letter from a college and it says you received a grant, you and your family should definitely celebrate. And then loans. You hear the word loan a lot. So I'm going to define two common loans that you hear about when attending college, and I'll explain what they are. So first you hear about the subsidized loan. So direct subsidized loans are loans that you're given as an undergraduate student. So that means pursuing your 4-year degree. And they are based on financial need. And they come from the US Department of Education, and they pay the interest on it. So you don't have to start paying on that loan till 6 months after you graduate. Then we have the unsubsidized loan. Okay, these are loans for students and there's no requirement for financial need. And you start paying interest on that loan the day it's issued to you. So you would be paying on it even while you're in college. So, but there are two loans that you will hear of and may see on a financial aid award. Typically what happens is around the spring of your senior year, the colleges that you have applied to and been admitted to will review your FAFSA, and then they will each one send you a financial aid award letter. They don't look the same. Each one is going to be very different, and you'll need to review it carefully line by line. And I would really encourage you to reach out to your admissions counselor or that university if you have any questions about what that award letter is telling you, because this is something new. And I just said they don't look the same from university to university. We each do it our own way. So definitely reach out to us if there's any question, because we really want you to have a good understanding. Does this college fit your budget, and should it remain on your list? We wouldn't want you to guess when it comes to cost.
I hope that's something you picked up from what Jamie just shared, was reach out to us. So really want to encourage you all, no matter what college you're looking at, really connect with your admissions counselors. We truly are here to help and be that resource to not just the student, but also the parents. All right, so our last criteria that we recommend you consider when choosing a college that fits is admission criteria. Just as Jamie said, financial aid can look different from school to school. Admission criteria can look different as well. But I will say the first three there on the screen are probably fairly common pieces that we all look at in some capacity. And by the way, our tips I meant to say earlier are all COVID-free, meaning that these tips apply pre-pandemic and in the middle of the pandemic and post-pandemic. So you just manipulate them a little bit. So looking at these first three criteria: GPA, the courses completed, ACT or SAT, those are the three kind of almost mainstays in most admission criteria. Now that last one actually is going to look a lot different this year because the pandemic impacted students' ability to take the ACT, or most students' ability to take the ACT or SAT. A lot of colleges have gone what's called test optional. Some might even say test blind. The long and short of it is that you as a student will not need to worry about a test score for most schools in the United States I mean, and just quickly, Jamie and Trent, your schools this year, are they also test optional or test bond or anything like that this year? Yes, so they're both shaking their head, yes. I believe that the last number we checked is about half of the schools this year are test optional or test blind. So as you are considering the admission criteria, if you are one of those students that was not able to take the test, or you only took it once and you don't love that score, that might be a really big part of the schools you're looking at. How are they going to use the test this year? But if you are watching and you are a junior or a sophomore or freshman, again, keep in mind that this criteria, it may pop up, it may go away. We don't know yet. But let's go back to the first two, because those are definitely the ones that you can control no matter what happens with the test. Your GPA and the course is completed. So your GPA is your grade point average. And when you're applying to colleges, we're going to look at your cumulative GPA. That means all of the grades you have accumulated up to that point. So typically you apply after junior year, which means we're going to see your grades from junior year, sophomore year, and freshman year. Yes, we look at all of them. There is no magical, I'm going to turn it on senior year, I'm going to get into the colleges I choose. Don't do that at all. Now, I know some of you might say, well, I'll get to that in a few minutes about, hey, well, I had a rough year. I'll come to that. I will address that, I promise. Courses completed. Why is that important? Most colleges look for what we call a college prep curriculum, and we listed that right there on the screen. The 4 years of English, 3 years of math, science, history, and then 2 years of a second language. You'll find that kind of fluctuate from school to school. But it is a good rule of thumb. If you can kind of take that type of course schedule, most colleges are going to like what you're bringing to the table there. And so the last point there, the holistic review, that addresses the whole student. So that's holistic, means the whole student. So that means we're going to look at everything we just talked about there, the GPA, the courses completed, ACT, SAT if she's applied, the strength of your courses. So this is where if you took honors, AP, accelerated, we'll see that. We'll look at your essay if you supplied essay. And this year, I truly want to encourage, if you are a senior watching this, or even next year as a junior as you prepare, essays, they've always been important, don't get me wrong. But this year, I really believe essays are going to probably be more important than they ever have been, because they're going to help supplement that loss, that the test score, that extra information that the test score provided. So please make sure when you do your essay that you do, first of all, make sure you answer the prompt. A lot of students kind of get lost in the prompt. Make sure you answer the prompt, make sure you proof it, and then take it to somebody that writes better than you and reads better than you and ask them to proof it. And it's okay if you have to rewrite it or rewrite parts of it. It's okay. It's part of the process. And you'll find that essay writing isn't just for getting into schools, but Jamie talked about scholarships before. Most scholarships want you to write an essay. So I encourage you, as you're thinking about a college that fits, don't be afraid to write essays, because they're going to help you get into college and help you pay for college. And then part of that holistic review, I mentioned, well, what if you have a bad year? You might say, oh, my freshman year it stunk. It was horrible. We look at grade trend, and that's where something we're going to spot with holistic review. So maybe your first year was a little rocky, but your next year, maybe we saw that you were averaging a 3.4, 3.5 sophomore, junior year. That's a trend. You're trending up. We'll catch that. So even if your magical GPA isn't something that you think is rock star, if you're trending in that direction, we're gonna catch that as a college. And we want you to be trending up, not down. So you don't want to have a great first year, second year, and then junior year is a little scary. Now, I know some of you, if you're a senior, you might say, hey, well, this past spring we had a pandemic. We were remote classes. We get that. We really do. And every college will adjust for that in one way or the other. Like at my school, I do read the applications. I've already kind of expected spring. I'm not really looking for anything. As long as you pass your classes, I'm feeling good. And whether that's pass, fail, don't fail, pass, or you have a letter grade, I'm already kind of counting that year. So I'm really going to look at what did you do before that, pre-pandemic. So we will look at all those different things. And then finally, extracurricular. They do make a difference. So we want to know what you're involved in. Why? It might trigger scholarships. So make sure when you fill out your application, fill out that information and tell us the wonderful things you're doing. Don't just fill out 1 or 2 things. If you know you're doing 10 things, tell us all 10. Put an extra sheet of paper in there if you need it. But I found students, if you're watching, you all are very humble. But you're doing wonderful things. So I always say, pick your parent, whichever parent. If I got an elevator, if Trent or Jamie got an elevator, which of your parents would just tell us how wonderful you are, just going off. That's the parent you want to channel when you do your application. So channel that parent, put all of your wonderful things on paper, face-to-face, be humble, on paper, braggadocious, okay? So that is all I have as far as admission criteria. So hopefully you've got some questions for sure. So this is your time.
Yeah, so as we're wrapping up, and again, start sending these questions in. We are happy to answer any specific, any general question you have, but also just take a deep breath. I know, especially looking at all of these different criteria, you might think, okay, this school is perfect for me for this one thing, this other school is perfect for me for this other thing. That is totally okay. That's what I love about my job is it is truly what we call the college search process. There is no right answer. There is no exact thing that's going to be the one thing you're looking for. So again, as we said at the beginning, we have said throughout, make this your own. Again, make this ranking what you're looking for, what makes your experience what you want it to be. My joke is that college is too short and sometimes too expensive to be somewhere that is not right for you. The last criteria that we'll talk about, and kind of my last plug to you, is if you do have these ranked, you do kind of have some ideas of what you're looking for, start seeing if you can visit these places. Some campuses are open to limited visitors. Some of them will meet with you virtually. You may be able to kind of take your own trip, keep your own distance. But again, going there, seeing it for yourself, meeting a faculty member, meeting one of us, because that is also our job, is to engage with you, answer these questions. Because at the end of the day, this is your process, but it is not your process to go through alone completely. So again, we are here. And then with that, I will answer one of our first questions that come in. And I will actually probably let Joel take the first one about college essays, since you talked a little bit more about that, Joel.
Oh, no, I was hoping. I was like, oh, I love that question. Yes, I want that one. Do we read the essays? Yes, we do. Again, it's not required of every school, but for schools that are requiring it, yes, we're going to read it. Now, you may not believe that, but I will tell you, quick story. I remember a story from last year, an essay from last year, where the young lady used she used an analogy. She said she doesn't have the largest feet, but she found herself following in the path of other people. And she talked about her journey of kind of discovering who she was and why it was important for her to grow. And so she said, I still don't have big feet, but I leave big footprints. I still remember that from last year's class. And again, that's a quick version of it. But yes, we actually do read essays. Again, the trick, you said what to write about. If the school requires a prompt, use the prompt. If not, write about something you're passionate about. But my only thing I want to encourage you, because there are essay prompts that just say pick a topic of your choosing. Make sure you determine what is my prompt, because that prompt becomes your anchor. Because sometimes students get lost in just writing when they don't have what question am I trying to answer? So just make sure you have an idea of what do you want to answer in that essay. If you want to tell us about, hey, this service trip I was on and how it transformed my life, make sure you address that in the prompt. But you can really write about either what the school is offering as a prompt if you need that as an anchor, or again, whatever you're passionate about. We want to learn about you, so choose something you're passionate about.
And then I can go ahead and address one of the next questions that have come in. The question was, how is international admission criteria different than the US? And do they still use an SAT score, was the question. And you really need to look into the criteria at each university and institution. It's often a different process. We have some different exams that we require. It's like at my university, it's a different application, different test scores are required. Everything's just a little bit different. And so you are going to have to look at each institution. I can't give you a broad answer to say there's a certain structure that we all follow. It is going to vary. So those universities that you're interested in, I would contact them right away. Some of us require international students to apply by October, and that's approaching very quickly. I know our deadline's in October. So you just really need, whoever your top 5 are, you'll need to seek out that process. And don't hesitate also to ask your high school college counselor if they can provide you with some guidance too. And the admissions counselors at each institution, reach out to them with specific questions you may have too. Or if you're having difficulty finding the certain information, reach out to us and we can help you cut through the paperwork, find the right website, and provide you with a guide. Like I know I have certain guides that I use with my students. So.
And know that there are international admissions counselors, just like we have freshman counselor, transfer counselors. We often have someone dedicated to international admissions as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last question, if we don't get any more, here is it sounds like a student maybe started taking some harder classes and their GPA went down a little bit. So they kind of backed out, changed class, and they just want to know if that's going to affect kind of how they're looked at in the college's eyes. So that trending down that maybe Joel had referred to a little bit earlier. And kind of what a holistic review also means is that we're looking at the rigor of the classes you're taking. So we're going to see, okay, they're in AP this or honors X, Y, Z. So that's going to hold a little more stock instead of, because we do that a lot with scholarships at Murray. So, we are going to do a holistic review of the classes you've taken. So not only, okay, it's great that you're in an AP class, but let's say your school only offers 3 AP classes and you're taking all 3 of them. You might not have a 4.0 GPA, but you're pushing yourself as hard as you can, as opposed maybe to a student who's taking 1 honors or 1 AP class at a school that offers 30, if that makes sense. So again, don't necessarily think of it as hurting you, because again, that's why we do the holistic review. That's why someone is sitting down and kind of looking through all of those things. But just know that we do catch small changes to your schedule. We see you challenging yourself, and we're much more likely to give you credit for that than to count that against you. Would you guys add anything to that, Joel?
Yeah, I was going to say, and if it's the case that you maybe a class was a little bit more rigorous for you, or it wasn't your subject of strength, actually, I applaud that. I've seen students stay in a course that's harder for them, and some are failing, but others are getting D. I tell students D's or F's in advanced classes is not impressive. I'd rather you, if you're struggling to even get that C in that higher class, I'd rather you come down and get that C or B in a class that is quote unquote not as rigorous, because let's just keep it real. Every subject, every student's not strong in. So if you're strong in math, then I want you to challenge yourself in math. And, but if you're weak in math, it's okay to be at honors science, but quote unquote regular math. So it's okay with that. We'll see that. We'll see that fluctuation and likely see that the grades shifted. And if we have a question again, I know I will reach out and ask if I see something that looks questionable.
I was just going to add, if there is something on your transcript that you feel like you want to explain to us, then please do so. I mean, reach out to us and explain a circumstance, an illness. It can be a variety of things. But if you really feel like there's more that we need to know that is not reflected in that transcript, reach out to us, okay? Because we can be an advocate for you and your admission file as we're reviewing it. And I'd rather us know the details than not. I can help you. Any other last questions? We only got a few moments left this evening. I would offer one more piece of advice. Like maybe after we end this session, you put those criteria in an order that works for you today, but that may change in a month from now, and it's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself, because as you investigate more colleges and take more tours and kind of assess your likes and dislikes, your order may be rearranged, and that's okay. Ultimately, we're just trying to help you find the best fit and where you'll be successful.
And know that even building off of that, as you work and use these criteria, this isn't really to work yourself down to even one college to apply to. You should apply, as Jamie said, I think at the beginning, multiple colleges. So use this list to kind of maybe build that initial list you're going to apply to, but then kind of keep, let's just say, reevaluating this list to then shrink it to the 1 or 2 colleges that you really want to kind of really decide between. So know that you'll constantly be reevaluating this list to go from 5,000 colleges to whatever 10 that you apply to hopefully 5 or more that you visit, to kind of work yourself down to the 1 that you actually choose. But it's a fun process. It really is, if you let it be.
Thank you so much. I learned so much. So I'm sure everyone in the audience did as well. I'm just gonna give a couple housekeeping notice items before we end the session today. So I'm gonna do another screen share. And I'm gonna pull up my notes again. Most importantly, thank you to our presenters, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. When you close the window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey, and we appreciate any and all feedback that you can provide us. As mentioned at the top of the hour, This was just one of many sessions hosted through our organization. So you can sign up for additional sessions on the website IACAC.org. And in about a week, you'll be able to find the session's recording. So if you loved what you heard today and you want to share it with a friend or a family member, please do. That will also be posted on IACAC.org. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to my facilitators. Great job. And have a wonderful Tuesday night, everyone. Thank you. We did it. Nice work.